is just kind of worn down over time, and I don't have to worry about this when hitting the toe. And so that's what I'm looking for. Now, as far as an actual use case, here I am plugged in with my pocket keyboard. This is my little travel laptop. You can see I put my 2.4 gigahertz dongle just directly into it, just to test it out. And yeah, it feels great. And by default, it was using the 800 DPI. For me, this feels pretty good. But of course, if you want to adjust it, you can do that by pressing this button. Next one will be green. 1200 DPI, then there's orange, 1600, then pink, which is 400, blue, which is 3200, and then purple finally at 6400. And you can definitely feel the difference between them. Like at 6400, this is crazy. Like I'm just barely touching it, it's moving all over the place. This might be great if you're playing something like Counter-Strike, but for me, this is way too sensitive. Even going up to 1200, which is the second setting, is a little bit too sensitive for me. So I'm just going to keep it at the standard yellow one, which is going to be 800 DPI. This one feels really natural. Next, I want to talk about some of the customization of the mouse. We're going to use the Ultimate software, which you can get directly on the Windows as well as Mac. To make the connection, you are going to have to use the wired cable itself, not the alpha. And from there, you can either update the firmware, or you can go and start the mouse. So I've made one here called RGC, so I'm going here and now I can change the settings. So first thing, you've got a bunch of different things to change on the keys. So here you can change over to left-hand mode, but then also you can change out what each individual button does. The only button that you can't configure is the left mouse click. That's always going to be the primary click, but you can change out your right click to something else. And you've got a bunch of different options here. You can change it to just a regular key, or a specific function like half buttons. There's a lot number as well. So it's really impressive how many things you can actually change with this. You want to use a control button, or even just as a symbol, you can do that as well. It's kind of crazy. You've also got a variety of what they call mouse buttons. So you could actually set this up to be like a double click or forward and back. However, it is worth noting that the scroll wheel does have its own mouse click as well, so you can set that to whatever you like. Now, by default, these two buttons on the left are going to be your forward and back buttons. That's going to be handy when using it like in a for example, if you want to just go quickly back, you can tap on that. But you can also see that on the right side, these two are actually disabled. Now, I personally like to have more functions than none, so I'm actually going to sign this. And for these, I think that the shortcut is probably going to be the best, because you've got a lot of nice options here. For example, if I want to change out my tracks, if I'm listening to music, I could set that up. Or if I could do volume down, I think that's probably what I'm going to go with. So for example, I can volume down here directly on my mouse. But who knows, I might in the future use this for like changing out a track while listening to music, or even adjusting the brightness up and down. So there's a couple things that are actually really neat. I even like the idea of maybe launching a calculator or opening up a browser with a button on my mouse. That's pretty cool. Either way, that's how I'm going to set up my mouse. So I've got just my regular left and right mouse clicks. I've got my scroll wheel click, forward and back, browser, and then also volume down. Now, in addition to just individual keys, you can also set up macros. So, for example, if you want one of these buttons to be a series of it, create your own macro with this. Now, on the next tab, we can set our DPI. So, by default, you can see we have all these different ranges. You can set these up to whatever you like. For me personally, you know, even 6400 is too sensitive, but obviously you've got a lot of things to work with. Now, you can also go below 800. So here, I can assign this to something lower. So say, for example, 50, and then I can set that to that specific color. For me, I do think that 800 is the sweet spot, but I could maybe move the 800 to this one and make this one 400, then I have a little bit more room to work with. Now, on the final tab, we have the performance section. So here we can adjust things like the scrolling direction and the speed of the scrolling, but then also you can adjust your polling rate. By default, it's set to 500 Hz, but you can go all the way up to 8,000 with a wired connection or 4,000 with a 2.4 gigahertz dongle. Now, by default, they have it set at a lower Hertz, and that's probably because the higher the number, the more energy it's going to consume and the shorter the battery life. I also assume that a polling rate is going to be like any other radio wave, which means that the higher the Hertz, the shorter the distance. So if you were to go up to 4,000 Hz with a 2.4 gigahertz dongle, that means it's not going to work as well as long distances. Even if it is going faster, it will be lower latency. For me personally, I'm going to leave mine at 4,000 Hz because I'm not concerned about battery life. After all, I'm going to be plugging it into a charging dock anytime I'm not using it. In addition, I'm going to leave the dock right there on my desk, so it's going to be very close to the mouse, so I don't have to worry about distance either. Now finally, on the bottom, we have this thing called lift off distance. So this basically determines how much to lift off the mouse from the desk before it stops registering the input. When it comes to gaming, people want to have a lower distance. That way they can quickly lift it off and move their mouse to adjust without losing like where they're reticule. Now, again, I don't really play any games like this, so I don't really care one way or the other, but I'm just going to leave it at default. So these are all adjustments that you can make depending on your own preferences when it comes to using this mouse. And I do like the fact that you have these options here. I assume the level of details that we have here is not the same as like a fancy $200 Razer Race, but it has all the things that I would want to see. So I think they did a pretty good job here in finding a good balance, especially for a mouse. Okay, we've been talking about this mouse a lot longer than I thought that I would. So let's start wrapping up and talk about what I like and what I dislike about the Retro R8 mouse from Stowe. As always, we're going to start with what I like. And number one, I like the retro looks of it. I grew up with the NES, and so, you know, I really like this color scheme, but then also I just think it has a nice utilitarian kind of blocky look to it. I also really like the feeling of this mouse. It's lightweight, it's only 77 grams, and yeah, I feel like I could use this for hours on end. But I think the star of the show is the charging stand. I love all the additional features that this brings along with it. It's a single cable solution, which means you just plug the stand into your computer, and then also it extends the range of the wireless because it starts at the charging stand. I also love the fact that it's charging the mouse when it's not used, so I never have to deliberately charge the mouse other than throwing it in the stand when it's not used. I also think that we have a lot of options here, including the ability to adjust the API directly on the mouse or in the software. And then we can also change up the polling rate and then assign the keys to whatever we would like, and we have a lot of options within that as well. I don't really have a lot of dislikes here. These are really kind of nitpicky. Number one is like the marketing push that they did with it, because I genuinely thought this was like a really tall mouse. It didn't make any sense to me. If I had seen other pictures that just showed it as a regular mouse, I would have been a lot more interested. So I'm hoping this video exposes it a little bit more. And then my only other nitpick I have is that it's not super ergonomic, because it is a symmetrical mouse, which means that yes, you can use it left and right-handed, but it doesn't perfectly fit into my right-hand mode. And again, this is more of a nitpick just because I am used to nice things broken. At the end of the day, I really do like this $8 mouse. I was not in the market for a new mouse, but when this showed up, I actually found an immediate use for it, just because I really like this charging dock. I'm probably not going to use this as my video editing mouse, just because I have one specifically for that, but for all everyday use cases, I'm actually planning on using this, and I'm kind of thinking about using this for gaming as well. I've never really done the mouse and keyboard thing, but this mouse makes me want to try. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Were you also tricked by this mouse to think that it was like a big, tall mouse? Or did you know immediately that it was a charging stand and I'm an idiot? As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we'll